What do you say to people who justified his death?
You're sick. He's a human being. You think he deserved that? Tell that to my 3-year-old daughter. Excuse me. You want to watch in high res the video of my husband being murdered and laugh and say he deserves it? There's something very sick in your soul, and I pray that God saves you.
Let's change gears a little bit and head over to the US, where the widow of Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated earlier this year, Erika Kirk, she has spoken out. Now, since Charlie Kirk's death, you would expect this to be a moment where all of America, left and right, could come together and condemn political violence and get behind Charlie Kirk's mission, which was, through freedom of speech, traveling around and having political discussions. Well, we saw in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death what the left did. Many of them celebrated his murder. But on the right, something very disturbing has happened. There has been this fracturing of conservative voices, many of whom have started peddling conspiracy theories as to why Charlie Kirk died, how he died. One of the most prominent people pushing this is Candace Owens, who 5 days a week since he was murdered has produced an hour-long podcast analyzing how it couldn't possibly have been the guy, Tyler Robinson, that the FBI caught. It must actually have been someone else, an internal cover-up by TPUSA. She also thinks the French and Israeli governments are somehow involved in this. It is absolutely bonkers, but thanks to all of our conspiracy theories, Candace Owens' podcast is now #1 in the world. Now, poor Erika Kirk, who's still grieving her husband, trying to steward this organization, well, she has just had enough. Have a look.
But here's my breaking point on that. Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
Now, it has been this relentless campaign to try and smear everyone in Turning Point USA, donors, as I said, the Israeli and French governments, as somehow being part of this assassination, which is mind-boggling. But James, it has torn apart the right and the Republican Party in the US. Their polling since all this happened, you would expect it to go up. It's actually nosedived, and never has there been more division on the conservative side of politics.
I would have thought it was pretty obvious Candace Owens is doing quite well from the death of Charlie Kirk. You mentioned her podcast has been #1 since Charlie Kirk's death. Her her views or her listens per episode have increased 25% since she's been doing this whole who killed Charlie Kirk conspiracy stuff, even down to the point that she says there's a big conspiracy around where Charlie Kirk has been buried. And of course, his burial plot has not been made public because, as we saw after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, psychos from the left kept on going on and on about Charlie Kirk and wishing ill on his family. And so they've kept the burial plot secret so that they can go and mourn without fear of being, confronted by lefties at the gravesite. But that's not enough for Candace Owens. She believes there's some kind of conspiracy even behind that. And she accuses Erika Kirk of wanting to take control of Turning Point for various reasons that I suppose relate to either money or control or power, when Candace Owens, as you pointed out, is the one who's herself doing very, very well out of this while claiming that her motives are completely pure as a friend of Charlie Kirk's.
And it's quite something to sort of, directly or indirectly accuse the widow of a dead man of trying to have him killed so she could effectively take control of the business that he built up and the movement that he built up, right? And the French government connection, is that not because of her stuff where she's been alleging, this is Candace Owens, that Bridget Macron is actually a man, and then she's claimed recently that the French government's got a hit out on her, and that is somehow linked to all of this, which seems exceedingly far-fetched, that the French would want to kill Charlie Kirk because he happened to be friends with Candace Owens, who's been saying that Bridget Macron is a man. It's just bizarre.
Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, has appeared in court in person for the first time. The 22-year-old, wearing civilian clothing, a shirt and tie but shackled underneath, was in a Utah court for a pre-trial hearing regarding recordings from October 14. Also, the judge is now deciding, and it is a closed court right now, judge is deciding what the media will be able to see, hear and report.
After hearing argument on all three matters, I will take a brief recess and then return to issue my ruling today. We will then stand in recess.
We're still waiting for the judge to return. Tyler Robinson has been charged with aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, obstruction of justice and 2 counts of witness tampering. Mr. Robinson has not entered a plea. If found guilty, he could face the death penalty. Now, last hour, I spoke to CNN's Nick Watt.
Going through the kind of pre-trial review process to figure out how much of this trial the public is going to be able to see and hear. That is a key point. And it's interesting, when we saw him just now in the court, he's wearing a blue shirt, striped tie, he's got his hair kind of awkwardly pasted across his forehead. Looks pretty chill. Talking for a guy potentially facing the death penalty, chatting with his defense lawyer. Now, the reason he's wearing his own clothes and not prison overalls, his defense team petitioned the judge and said, listen, we don't want the jury and the public to be prejudiced against him by seeing him shackled and in, prison overalls. So we'd like him unshackled and wearing his own clothes. He's allowed to wear his own clothes. One hand, his left hand, is still shackled to his waist, his right hand free so he can take notes. So the biggest issue, which will not be decided today, is whether there are going to be cameras inside that court. Okay. Now, the defense team says that they do not want those cameras in there. Erika Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow, says we deserve to have cameras in there. She said, listen, there was plenty cameras on my husband when he was killed. There have been plenty cameras on me ever since. Why don't you just be transparent and put cameras in the court? So that's what a lot of this back and forth is about today. It was also interesting. The defense asked if Tyler Robinson's dad, mum, and sister could stay inside the court, and the state lawyer said, listen, we're going to be talking about security around the courtroom. We really don't want anybody in here. So right now, as you say, they're kind of just figuring out a bit of housekeeping, how this trial is going to go down. Obviously, it is hugely high profile. So They're trying to dot the I's, cross the T's, figure out how it's all going to go before we start.